I really like the solids as a demonstration to get us started. This is from the technical drawing, I believe the 15th edition, but there are these examples all the way back to probably the 8th or ninth edition that I remember. So if you go to any of the used bookstores or look online, you can find the technical drawing books, and they're a good resource to have. So large portion of what we're going to do is going to be cubic. There are techniques for the octahedron and the tetrahedron that are useful. There are previous videos of the dodecahedron, the icosahedron. Those involve 3D sketches or some equations, or there's some different ways to approach those. It's also one that I do surfacing with, so those take a little bit longer, so I'll just refer back to those videos. Oh, grabbed the wrong one there. See which way it went. Let's grab that one and move it out of the way. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to follow these same procedures through all of our models. So File, New, and we're going to be opening up a part. If you created the templates, then part inch and part metric are the default templates, and assume that you haven't, so we'll be in millimeters and grams and seconds. And for this exercise, it's not really that critical. So to save a little bit of time on the files, I'm going to use solid bodies. So in the setup, I've turned the solid bodies on, so I'll always see that folder. But if you haven't, as soon as you create a second solid body, it will pop up. So front plane, we're going to be opening a sketch, and that's going to be my preferred. We're going to do that two ways. There sometimes operations or going into a command, there might be several ways to get to it. So we'll go with the corner rectangle and click, and then click again. I did a click drag. There's also the click click. I'm going to go into the smart dimension, and we'll just set, let's see, since we're in metric, we'll go 100 millimeters, and then the choice is to put another dimension or set a relation. So if I want a dimension, I'm just going to click and click again, set the number, but I'm going to escape out of this, escape one more time to get out of the dimension, and then we do the select, control, select. All right, so selecting the first object, holding down the control button, selecting the second object, and then we're going to get a pop-up with relations. Also, we're going to get the property manager, and there we would see equal. So my design intent is that this cube will always be equal. All right, so one of the things with the polyhedra, basically our prismatic shapes, is that all of the faces are the same. So if I do 100 millimeters, that becomes the cube. All of the faces will have the same areas, all the edges will have the same length. All right, so at this point, I don't have, if I don't have the solid bodies, then I can't really hide this. Let's see, if we come over here and right click, you would be able to hide from that point. All right, so the octahedron we could build on. Why don't we just do that? Let's go ahead and show. And if I wanted to do the octahedron, first I'm going to create a sketch. Might as well be on the front plane. And if I go into the sketch tab and then into the sketch command, then I'll be able to draw this shape. All right, so with the octahedron and the same size faces, let's see what happens. Let's see, are those going to be, I think once this kicks over, the trick here is making all of the faces the same. So I'm not really going to focus on that. I've done that in previous videos um, to calculate that out. But we would need, because this angle and that angle are going to kind of affect the end result, let's just go ahead and do something like that. Now this is going to give us 3 regions. So a region, and technically the contour would be the outside shape, but we'll have to see what we get when we go to the features, do an extrude cut. And when I select the contours, I'm going to tell it to remove those 2 regions. And then that can go away. All right, on the right plane, and I did not center my original cube, so it's okay. And you kind of see that when you click and you get that pop-up, it's going to be the fastest way to jump into a sketch. If you come up to the sketch tab and go into the sketch, it's doing the same thing. So it's not really that big of a deal. It's just going to come down to what is the most efficient. All right, so my line, click, I'm looking for the midpoint. Let me do that again. Control Z, Control Z. We're going into the line, and I'm looking for that endpoint, and that little yellow box is telling me coincident. I'm kind of scanning across this edge, and that little yellow box is showing me the midpoint. And then we'll go from that endpoint to that endpoint, and that will give me the geometry that I'm looking for. We'll go ahead and extrude cut. Now this one doesn't intersect anything, so if I do the contours and regions, it's not really finding anything. All right, so that's a problem. So let's cancel out of that. And I have a couple of options. I'm going to do a Control 8 to go back normal too. I could draw 2 lines and 2 lines basically over the edge and tell it to remove that material. Or, since we jump back into the sketch tab and we're still in the sketch, I can tell that I'm in the sketch because I have the confirmation corner. My object lines are in black, not kind of grayed out. And my icon, my cursor is ready for sketch tools. So I can always come in and draw this into a complete triangle, and when I go to tell it to remove the material, I'm going to extrude cut and give it an end condition. And the end condition is going to be through all. Now this would remove the interior. I want to flip the side to cut, and I have this little arrow that tells me that the area outside of the triangle is what's going to be removed. Now it does not intersect the model, which means that if I look at the direction 1 arrow, can't really tell when I'm straight into the model, but the direction 1 arrow is going that way. I reverse it, and all of a sudden I'm going to see all of that yellow. All right, so that gives me my pyramidal shape. And let's see what we got, 122 and the 100. So there is, it's not exactly going to be all of the edges the same length, although the areas would technically be the same. All right, so we need to search through. And if I remember correctly, the linear pattern pull down has the mirror command in. If I don't, I'm just going to come up here to the search and I'm going to start typing, and that will take me to the mirror. It doesn't really tell me where it's at, but I can get to it pretty quick. And if I'm using it a lot, oh, there it is. All right, so snuck one in on me there. I did not catch that until I was, it just popped right out. All right, so the mirror face and plane is the bottom. The feature to mirror, it would be, well, we had specific features, faces, would be if I wanted to just grab one of these. But really what I want is the body. I want the whole solid. And once I pick that and tell it to merge the solids, it will become a single solid body with that diamond looking shape. All right, so the octahedron shape. All right, and then the tetrahedron, let's go ahead and hide that. The tetrahedron has a little bit more, and again, I'm not going to worry about making the edges the same. I'm going to focus more on the techniques that I want to use for this geometry. So let's go into the top plane and open a sketch. And for this, I'm going to use the polygon, and it will give me a center, and it's going to be 3 sides. Now, where did my origin go? I lost it for a second there. All right, so I can place that. Again, not real concerned with the size. I could pick the inscribed circle. And if I wanted to experiment, all right, 173, if I place that, I was expecting that to be a driven, so let's see if it goes to, it went between the points, so something in there. When it, let's go ahead and make that horizontal because it should have fully defined. What I was looking for my example was if I place that, it's going to ask me if I want to make this dimension or leave this dimension driving. Right, so most of the time I'm just going to cancel if I see that. It just means that this is the driving dimension. One of the things we can do is go back into select, make sure that I can get to it, and just at the bottom there I can turn that into driven, and I would like to see the different results. Well, I was going for 100. All right, so 57 on our inscribed circle, 100 on the face. All right, so let's see. I want to cut this along this direction, so I'm just kind of planning ahead for the right plane. We're going to extrude, and 100 millimeters should be okay. So when I cut this on the right plane, I'll be opening a sketch. Know that it's going through there, and just based on my geometry, I'm going to cut this way to get my shape. All right, so I'm opening up the sketch, and that was a right click. I think if I just left click, I won't get the expanded in context. Now that moved around a little bit, and since I kind of lost my perspective, I'm going to hold down the middle mouse wheel and rotate that over a little bit. I'm going to find the origin and bring that up. And I'm just going to draw the triangle in place. And now going back to Control 8 for the normal 2, I can just drag that into the face. So again, not worried about the edges, 115 instead of 100. And I'm going to go ahead and do an extrude. I think I still managed to go the wrong way on that one. Yeah, it's going to take off the wrong side. So, that being the case, let's remove a relation and drag the other way. All right, so that's going to give me the shape along the long edge. I can pick, but that's going to give me something called a pierce, and it says that a plane, when it passes through a solid, has one or more solutions, so it would find that location. The other thing that probably makes more sense or is more approachable is to select and control select and make those coincident. All right, so let's see what that does when I go to do the extrude cut. we're telling it through all, but I want to go through all both. And actually, I needed to reverse that. All right, so based on the result, that wasn't really what I was looking for. Let's go Control 8. And one of the things that I can do is let's try the open profile, and I'm going to switch those to construction geometry. So I'm looking for this object to construction or for construction. And I mentioned several times that a construction line and a center line are essentially the same thing. So let's go extrude cut. It shows me the preview and there's an arrow, so that means everything on that side is going to cut. I come over here and flip the side to cut, or I click on the arrow. It's probably easier to see this and watch and find the arrow and watch it go to whichever side than it is um, to locate the arrow, so checking the box. So one of the things I want to do is show the sketch because that's going to give me an axis to rotate. I want to pattern this feature, and that jumped over to the sketch. So I want to create a circular pattern, and the feature is going to be the cut. All right, and then the equal spacing, 360 degrees, and 3 instances. And I see my cuts, and that looks okay. All right, so the check then is if I grab each of these edges, 115, 115, and 115. So that again gives me the tetrahedron, and not exactly 4 equal triangles, right, on the bottom, but I have enough there to get started on the geometry and to introduce our patterns. And so if I go from this point and I show the other body, right, now I have 2 separate, and we would go back and clean up and hide the sketch. And one of the things with SolidWorks is this solid body intersecting this solid body, it doesn't care. It's going to pretty much duplicate that mass. If I go to measure it, I am responsible for 2 objects occupying the same space. So keep that in mind as you're creating this geometry. And if you have the solid bodies folder turned on in the options, then that's something you're going to glance at every once in a while. If you don't and it pops up, then it means you managed to create this second body somehow, and kind of need to diagnose and find out what's going on there, because if you intended it, great. If you did not intend it, then we need to make a correction. So those will be the starts of our shapes.